Eli Manning stays on his feet. It is caught by Tyree.
Welcome to Catch the Moment podcast. It's your boy David Tyree. I'm back again. Not only with somebody very, very special, we got a lot of history, but we're going through process, journey, and pain points. I'm with family. Amani Toomer is here with me, the greatest receiver in Giants history. I got to say that because it's the truth. What's good, my boy?
How you doing, man?
Listen, man, thanks for coming through, man. Spend a little bit of time with me, man. Just what you been up to lately, bro?
I've been up to a lot, raising kids.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to just expand business-wise. I feel like once I got done playing, I just wanted to stay close to the sport.
Yeah.
And so I did media for a couple years.
You was doing good, in my opinion.
I was doing well, but it just wasn't fulfilling. You know what I mean?
Okay.
It's like one thing that I tell people who get done playing is you got to find your purpose.
That's good.
And you got to find your purpose before it's too late. You got to find your purpose, preferably right when you get in the league. You figure out something that you like to do and work towards that goal.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get into media because it was something I thought, my buddy Jesse did it. Jesse Palmer did it. And I'm like, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love it.
So then I did that for a couple years, and it was okay. It was cool. But like talking junk about people, you know how hard the game is.
Bro, it's real.
It's hard.
You got to have something to say, and you got to have something to say that people are interested in.
Yeah, and it's like, sometimes there's just something. The thing about athletics is like from the outside looking in, especially in the NFL, it looks very exciting.
Yeah.
But when you're inside, it is mundane and routine, and it's not very exciting. So most of the time in sports, it's not very exciting for the players.
Yes.
Practice, meetings, all this stuff that nobody sees. It's not very exciting.
Yep.
So there's some times where a story comes out and you're just like, that doesn't really make any sense to me. And then you're like, no, you got to talk. The producer's like, you got to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's nothing to really talk about. No, you got to fix it. And then you can't be on the fence about anything.
That's true. You got to have a clearly defined opinion, right?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I understand some of those difficulties because, some things, there is like this gray area where it's really not that important. I mean, in relation to like, no, I don't have like this deep, infatuated opinion about how great this is or how important this is. Yeah. This is just a part of it.
Yeah.
And no, that doesn't give the sound bites that everybody's looking for. But man, you like I said, obviously we transitioned around the same time out. Although you played 13 years.
13, yeah.
So we are going to kind of peel it back because there's enough that I know. There's a little that you can kind of there's enough that you can find. You might not know this, but I think I was like definitely in high school somewhere. Nike jerseys were like that was like a big thing. College Nike jerseys, and I'm in a Foot Locker, and the first dope Nike jersey I ever purchased, it had like the fluffy M was a Michigan jersey, number 18.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't know if I ever mentioned that while we were teammates. No, but that was like, I was feeling real good about that purchase.
That's great, man.
So it's really cool. Like I actually make that connection, but you can't sweat people too hard when you're in the same locker room, right? But your career, there's a few things that on more on the life side, but on the sports side, the most impressive part, and I want to get into the process journey, but the most impressive experience that I had as a young player coming in and looking at the number one receiver for the Giants at the time was your competitive drive. So me acknowledging that I do want to kind of like for me, it's always about like that journey and makeup. How did that develop? Whether that goes back to, childhood, like what that was for me, that was the defining. I want to get your feedback, but like that was the defining attribute from that set Amani Toomer apart in my personal estimation. So where did that come from?
I think you're born with it, but I think the fact that I really enjoyed playing sports, and I wasn't going to play unless I was going to win. So I had this it's an unhealthy competitive drive.
I'm
Absolutely unhealthy.
I'm glad to hear you acknowledge it.
You don't know how many friends I lost growing up because if my friends would come to my house and they beat me in anything, cards, checkers, anything, I would not let them leave my house until I beat them.
So they were prisoners.
Yeah, and it wasn't beat them once. I had to beat them to the fact that they know that I know that they know that I dominated them. And that's it. I mean, I have a friend, my friend Sam. I grew up with him, Sam Roberts. He's one of my best friends, and I talked to him. I was texting him this morning, and he was like, "Yeah, I used to go up and I'd play games and play ping pong."
Yeah,
and it was like it was the worst. I remember. You know, it was so bad. Like I went to I did a speech at a high school. Our coach knew somebody.
High school coach?
No, our pro coach.
Okay. You had Reeves, you had Fossil,
it was a position coach, the wide receiver
Sully?
coach. No, before Sully.
Oh, Robinson, Jimmy Robinson.
Jimmy Rob.
Big shot, Jimmy Rob.
Yeah, big shot to Jimmy Rob. But Jimmy Robinson, I met one of his high school friends, was a big time trader or whatever. So I went to speak to his sons. At their banquet, their celebration banquet. So we speak, everything goes well, and all of a sudden there's a ping pong table. And I'm like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. I know me. I can't just play for fun, right? So we get to playing, and I win the first game, no problem. The second game, I lose. Third game, I lose again. It's like,
and you feel it all rising up.
All the everything that I had, loose fitting off. I'm sweating, right? And I'm not cursing, but I'm close to curse. I'm like, son of a buck. And then the guys were like, are you all right? And I'm like, no, let's keep on playing. And I wouldn't stop. I just got done doing a speech about all this stuff. I'm sweating, right?
This is legendary.
In somebody's backyard. They just have, and it was just so embarrassing, but I couldn't stop it. I had to win.
So you have an unhealthy relationship with competition.
Oh, it's so bad.
Wow. I mean,
it's really bad. In college, it was even worse because I stopped playing video games because I used to play video games and play Madden. Mm-hmm. And if I won, I was supposed to win. But if I lost, it would ruin my day. So I was like, it's a no-win situation for me.
Got it.
So I stopped doing all that stuff. I don't like playing with my kids because my son likes to play basketball now.
No easy wins.
That bow is coming out. If he's getting too close, that bow is coming out.
That is fantastic, bro. Well, like I said, obviously I can see in spaces and pockets, right? We're on the field, so it's the best place for it to be in our work environment. But all right. So obviously, I think there's something ingrained about it. Talk to me about you grow up. It's easy for me to make the connection. I know your high school is known for at least the 150 game plus win streak.
Yeah,
you were a part of that. So did you lose any games?
I lost the last game to start the streak, but we had a 44 game win streak to start that streak.
Dang.
So we won 44 games, lost my senior year, my last game, and then they didn't lose until I want to say my 5th or 6th year in the NFL.
Yeah, it was
it was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So you're talk to me just about obviously sports was that foundational piece.
Yeah.
What was life like growing up in California? Where were you? What was home looking like? And who introduced you to sports? How it became a foundational part of your life?
Oh man, I grew up in Berkeley, California. I grew up in kind of like a hippie place.
Okay.
So there was like a lot of hippies around. So it was a good environment to it wasn't traditional. It was a lot of free thinkers, a lot of open minds, a lot of all kinds of stuff. So I really enjoyed my childhood. I had a lot of good times, doing different stuff that I never thought I'd be doing. We'd go to beaches and skateboarding, and I did BMX racing. I did all kinds of stuff. My parents put me in everything. I did ballet. I did piano. I did everything.
So you had a little taste of the X Games, and
Yeah. Before the X Games were the X Games. Yeah.
So that was to me that was one of the biggest surprises, right? So I'm East Coast. Now I grew up in a diverse town in Montclair, so
Yeah.
you know that. So I'm very, like that served me extremely well.
Yeah.
But the funniest part is when I meet you, like, number one, your name's Amani. So like, and that's when I think about your age, you're a few years older than me. I'm like, that's cutting edge Amani. I mean, like, that was like, that ethnic kind of name. I'm thinking like, number one, he's a beast.
Yeah.
Number two, he's black dude. His name is Amani.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm expecting a little more grit, but when I speak, you sound like Berkeley, California, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but here's something I've always connected with you, and you share with me your thoughts. Like you don't have like amidst the diversity, you have an interracial marriage.
Yeah.
You also have this deep connection to who you are as a black dude, right?
Yeah.
So tell me about your like that dynamic. How diversity served you well, but also your real experience and connection.
Oof, man, because I think that, people who grew up in all black communities or people who grew up in all white communities, I don't know if they really dealt with the hand-to-hand fighting of racism. But when I grew up in a very diverse area, and then I went to school in San Francisco. Was a very diverse school for in junior high, which was cool. But then I went to an all-white high school out in Concord, which is like a very white area.
Got it.
In the Valley, they call it. And so, like, I didn't think much of racism. I didn't think anything of it. And then, like, I was, I guess I was dating this girl.
There it is.
And her parents found out that I was black, and it was like, and that just totally changed my whole, because it's like, that's the first time where I realized that, there is some, it's
there.
It didn't just die in the 70s and 60s, but you it doesn't, right? But when it goes to you and, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm doing this, I'm good in school. Nothing matters.
Yeah.
It's just because of your skin, right? And it was just the weirdest feeling. So like, I felt like I was on the front lines. You know what I mean? Like the front lines. So I had a choice to make. Like, I could try and fit in, or I could just be like, nah, man, this is who I am. This is what I am. And that's what I did. I really, because my parents, I think they did a great job, because I grew up around a lot of white people. Yeah. But they did a great job of like telling me who I was and telling me what it is. I mean, my name is Amani because, back when I was growing up, it was popular to have, this is like Malcolm X, not a little after Malcolm X, but like, it was popular to name your kids after, African names. It was like an African name movement. Yeah. And so, and growing up in Berkeley, it was, it was fairly normal, right? Okay. I got a lot of friends named Ajay. I got friends named, all kinds of African names. Excellent. And it was a different type of struggle than I think a lot of people dealt with, because it was more hand to hand. And so I had, just like I said, I had a choice to make, whether I wanted to try and fit in and be something else, or I could just, dig in and get to myself. And I always thought, like, I respected my parents. I respected all that stuff. And I didn't want to, like, I felt like if I tried to go the other route and try to fit in with like the white kids, and I fit in, because I fit in anywhere, but like,
but that's part of,
yeah, I mean, I fit in anywhere, but it's like, I just didn't want to, like, I'm black, you know what I mean? And I'm proud of it, and I'm not going to hide it, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything about it. Yeah. And, but one of the things that I did have as a problem was when I went from the white high school back to a black environment, which was football at Michigan. They all thought I was white. And I'm like, yo, like, I went to Michigan because they have like 8% black student body. Okay. So there was a lot of black kids there that weren't athletes, because every other school I went to, the only black kids on campus were athletes. Okay. So at Michigan, it wasn't like that. So that's why I went. Got it. So then I go to Michigan, they call me white. And I'm like, what the heck? I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is why I went here. You know what I mean? So then it was just one of those situations where it was really uncomfortable, because, I just didn't fit in at Michigan at all, because you got people from Detroit that never even been around a white person.
It's more about the poor, poverty, dialects, experiences, because like I said, I grew up with a taste of everything.
Yes, yes.
And so it served me so well.
Yeah.
I mean, like growing up in East Orange, which is extremely urban.
Yeah.
A lot of challenges economically.
Yeah.
Then moving into Montclair
Yeah.
at 6th grade,
Yeah.
I still had some of those structures. Like all my family's from Newark, Irvington, East Orange.
Yeah.
Bringing that edge. But then I'm in Montclair. After a few years, you're like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things like me going into sports so much is because I played soccer growing up for a long time. And soccer, mostly a white sport.
Yep.
Well, in the Bay Area back in time I was playing.
Well, I think
and
still
then
so.
and then I got to play football, and that was like there was like no white people on my whole team. And so I was like, this is where I fit in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me to like force myself, because it was uncomfortable. Because you grew up around all white people. There's a certain rhythm to how they act towards each other, and then you get around all black kids, and it's like it's the same. It's just a different rhythm. It's a different rhythm, but it's the same. You got guys that are jerks. You got guys that are great people. You got guys with high integrity. You got you just got to figure that out.
That's excellent.
And being able to go to both worlds and kind of figure all that out. But then in California, you got the Spanish community.
Yeah.
You got the Filipino. You got
Absolutely.
the Asian. You got the all kind Hawaiian. It's like all kinds. So it was really a great experience, but at the end of the day, like I did most of my stuff trying to get closer to the black community growing up. And that's kind of, I don't, people ask the way I talk. I don't know how else to talk. This is how I talk, So,
Well, yeah, I'm one of these defenders of, the fact that people can easily be insulted. And sometimes it really is insulting. It's like when somebody says, oh, you speak so well, right?
Yeah.
So that can be like abrasively insulting. But I know sometimes what people are actually trying to say is you speak like you're educated.
Yeah, okay,
right?
okay.
So because when you're less educated, right,
yeah.
then you might not master the English language. It actually has, like there is a way to pronounce certain things, right?
But you know what? But I get what you're saying, but it's like, why do... Like, I think we're one of the only cultures that I remember talking to some kids in Michigan. They were like, yeah, I'm from Dayton. That's the murder capital of the world.
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
Are you proud of that? Like, that's something to be proud of? Like, and then you realize, I don't care where you're from. You got strong people in the hood.
That's
you
right.
got weak people in the hood.
That's right.
There's guys from the worst parts of whatever. You play against them in sports and you throwing them on the ground. You're like, man, that's all you got.
That's all you got.
So it's more of a personal thing. So
it is.
And I think I get people all the time. Oh, he's so nice, and it's just like you just don't know me well enough. I talk a certain way.
Yeah,
and not like I'm a jerk or nothing, but no. I'm not an easy win.
No. Listen, and that's the way we assess people based off of what we're familiar with. Mm-hmm. And I said, thank God for MMA these days because I've always respected every man. I've never walked around looking for drama, but I'm like, listen, you walk up on the wrong joker these days, then it would end up choking your behind. Okay,
man, I tell you, I take jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And
freaking jiu-jitsu, bro.
It is the most humbling experience you have.
There you go.
Because if you don't know it and somebody knows it, you're in trouble. If they get a hold of you, I don't care how strong you are. I don't care how big you are. If somebody knows it, you are in trouble.
Wow. Bro.
Because they don't go for like, oh, I really would have hurt you. They're like choking you and you're like, or they're like on the arm bar and they're about to break your arm. You know what I mean? Or they have a shoulder lock. It's not a
street fight.
No, it's maiming. Like they're trying to maim you and immobilize you.
That's crazy. I tell people, anybody that's well skilled and well trained, you should just be afraid of.
No, it's
So before I get too far into, because your off the field life is probably one of the most robust that I know. Before I get too far into the jiu-jitsu, I want to peel back and really take a look at some of your body of work because it is like insanely impressive. And I don't know, if you actually get the respect, I've watched you, so you got my highest respect. But, you got like this whole line of pedigree from high school to obviously Michigan, at least back in the day was.
We were good this year. We were good this last year.
Y'all did come back into the respect conversation. And then you obviously end up playing your entire career with I would still say the flagship organization of the National Football League with the Giants. So, but you got not just play, bro, you got all the freaking records, maybe aside from single season, right? I think Victor might have that one.
Victor clipped me on that one.
He clipped you? Yeah.
No, it was Steve Smith got me.
He got you?
He got me on the catches.
You sure?
I think
single season?
Single season.
Okay. All right.
And then I think,
but it's a different, it's different era.
He plays 17 games, man, and
different era, bro.
Eli too. I'll play
with Eli 1.0.
We play with the beta. We play with the beta version. We play with the beta version.
Eli, he's bad. We love you, bro. But it was definitely you were a different quarterback after you won the Super Bowl.
He improved. That's all I'll say. He improved.
Yeah, man. So, bro, like for whatever reason, you've been in the middle of pedigree everywhere, bro. So like most of us, like you said, we come from the mud and you get the adversity. What was like, I get the competitive, you're born that way, you're ingratiated. Was there any significant moments as you were growing up through high school where something clicked and it's just like, I'm that dude? Like this is what wired me to be that guy?
No, I just didn't care about most of that stuff. And that's kind of, I think, one of the reasons why it never was like looked upon in a different way. Like I wasn't like Ocho Cinco, like wearing the Hall of Fame jacket or T.O. with the popcorn. That wasn't why I was doing it.
So what was it?
I just loved competing. There was something about a quarterback and a receiver. There's something about that dynamic when I was with Carrie. There was something about that it was something that I can't even explain it, but I loved it. I love that.
Because what made me respect you even more is that when you came into the league, high expectations, dynamic career at Michigan, but the success wasn't immediate.
No.
And it actually was, I
was on the way out.
Yeah, it was kind of like, we don't know. Yeah. You was doing the thing as the punt returner, killing the game there, but that's not what they drafted you for.
No.
So how did you handle that? How did you handle all of that mentally, emotionally? What were like? How does Amani Toomer overcome adversity? What were the things that really got you through?
Well, one of the things was I had a coach in Jim Fossil who was brutally honest with me, right? So I remember, because when you're young, you feel like the only reason why, like you don't have a really good worldview of like macro view of a team and the team dynamics, right? Okay. You think everything runs through you, right?
Absolutely.
So I was not playing, and I remember there was a guy named Kevin Alexander, and me and him and David Patton, art rest his soul.
Yep.
Man,
big respect to
David Patton. Just
never met him, but he was a hero from a distance.
Just an unbelievable spirit in terms of he was always positive. Like, you see people that are always positive and you're like, oh, that guy's always, this guy.
It didn't come off
him and Tabiti Davis were the two guys that I was looked at. I'm like, how are you always so happy? You know what I mean? Like, how do you always have a smile on your face? But anyway, so going back to what I was talking about. You think that, oh, he doesn't like me.
Yep.
Oh, he doesn't like me. That's why. He has something personally against me.
Hey, bro. Hey, just sidebar. It happened before the Generation Z, and a lot of athletes thought that way.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
So I went to him and I'm like, yo, like, why am I not playing? He goes, well, first of all, you don't know the playbook, right? And I'm like, I think I do, but okay. Then he's like, you're not in good condition. You're always last when you're running gassers.
Wow.
And then he's like, and then you just can't get off the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't see you getting off the line of scrimmage and separating. So I was like, first of all, you hear those things from the head coach who, and you're trying to go into a year and trying to impress, and you're like, man, these are 3 major strikes basically against, especially as a receiver.
Yeah.
You can't get off the line of scrimmage. Damn. You don't know the position. You don't know what you're doing, and you're out of shape. I mean, what are you there for, right? So I go, yo. So I went home and I was depressed and I was mad and I was angry. And I remember we had just lost a playoff game to the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm watching the game. I'm watching the next week. The Kansas City Chiefs are playing somebody, and they win a game, and I'm sitting there like, I could have helped my team. I need to find a way to help my team because I know I'm better than what they are. They are showing me, and you know, those three things ended up being pillars of like, oh, well, I'm going to make him think of three different things next year because I'm getting out on the field. So I went out and I used to run every day. I used to run miles every day. Then I went and took Kung Fu, and I used to like practice Kung Fu and practice my hands to try to get off the line of scrimmage.
It's huge.
And then I took the quarterback when, you know, we were in there, and I'm like, yo, explain me everything. Explain me all the protections. Explain to me all the, every check, everything. Where am I hot? Why would I be hot? What is this defense?
Yeah.
And Kent Graham did that. He took me in there, and he just sat there, and we went over all different things. 3 down, 4 down, 5 down, you know, bear, all this stuff. Stuff that receivers don't really need to know.
At
right?
all. But it enhances your view of the game.
Exactly.
Man, allows you to play, like you said, play way faster. Right?
Exactly. So then that happened, and I went out there, and it didn't even happen immediately because Chris Callaway started my third year. No, my third year, and that was the year I really started to grow. You know, I ended up, I think I had like 27 balls I caught, but I caught 5 touchdowns.
Nice.
So they were like, you know,
that's a hell of a ratio.
They were like, all you do is catch touchdowns, you know. But because I used to just go deep. Like I was a 3rd down receiver, and I'd go against their 3rd corner, and it was like
bacon.
It was. I was
good
like,
home cooking.
I was like, I'm good, you know. so then
I could live with that role.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm good, you know, because you'd never play against the number 1, right? So then, you know, as I progressed and I started getting the number 1, your game constantly got to keep evolving, you know. And it's more of like a mental game. You got to be. It's all about the technique and all this stuff. So it was a fun experience learning these different gems to success.
That's pretty neat, actually, hearing the story of how it evolved, because I just always knew that was a reality. Because number one, like I said, I had your jersey in high school, and I'm like, well, why he ain't shining yet, you know? And I used to hate on the Giants, so I was okay with it. But but no, it was dope, because by the time I get into the National Football League, it's like year 7 or 8 for you, and I felt like, you know, I'm like, well, I had to find the person I was going to imitate, and I was like, well, Amani's too much of a deep threat for me to imitate. So I roll with Ike, but you had your work ethic and competitiveness I could easily identify with. So I always wonder, like, man, I wonder what really clicked for this dude. And it's really dope to hear you actually, you know, because that conversation could have went 2 ways.
Exactly.
And that's usually the way it goes.
Exactly.
It's either going to kill a player, or it's going to save him.
Yeah.
And for you, like I said, 13 seasons.
Yeah.
This is. I think your records are safe, bro. In my personal opinion, because I don't know if there's ever going to be another player that's going to have the longevity in this modern day NFL. Yeah. Have you given that thought in relation to your accomplishments, to where you sit?
I mean, I'm very proud of those records, but I know that they are meant to be broken, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So, you know, like, I know that when I left, I had all the records, right?
Yeah.
And when I left, I was like in the top 45 all time, right? Like, I knew that. So, you know, the game has definitely changed. I remember we used to throw the ball 20 times a game, and that was like, wow, we're really doing something. Now it's like, if you run the ball 20 times a game, they're like, what are you doing? Bro. So it's different, but I love today's game. It's so much more exciting to watch, especially as a receiver, because there's more technique involved, even though I don't think their technique is up to snuff most of the time.
So give me that, because that's what I like. So, you know, like I don't have massive memories, but I would always tell people, I was like, you don't understand what made this dude so good. I don't think there was ever anyone, and Steve Smith was the closest, the only that I can recall, who had better positioning as a receiver. And when did that become a focal point for you as a receiver? I was like, you're the only person who catches deep balls over the shoulder constantly, and had the ability to slow down to actually draw a pass interference. Yeah. So just briefly kind of share like your mental makeup, how you evolved, and maybe who were the people that really added to your growth, you know, because these things still, you process and you think the same way, even when you go into business, different, you're trying to analyze, improve. So how does that, obviously it came it started there, but how does that evolve?
I think it's good coaching. You know, that's the thing about it. Like Jimmy Robinson and Fred Jackson was my coach, my first coach, and he was really one who kind of got me learning how the psychology on how to get off the line of scrimmage, because it's not all physical. Like, you have to think these guys, you know?
Yep.
A couple times you got to go inside, then you got to go outside. So then you can set up both ways, because if you were constantly going outside, taking that outside release, then they're going to time that outside release.
Absolutely.
So you got to always be thinking, even on a run play, you got to be thinking the game always. And that's when you go to that next level. You got to be thinking it. You can't just be like, okay, I'm going to run this route. You got to think, okay, I'm going to run this route. Well, how did I run it last time?
This is good. This is good.
What did I do 2 weeks ago that he might have seen on film?
So this is self-scout. I mean, this is what I love it, because I can see it in my own life. I can see it in business. You actually have to scout yourself to understand how to improve and deliver the diamond moving forward, right?
Yeah.
But that's so obviously coaching. You mentioned Jimmy Robinson. He was my rookie year coach. Only had 1 year with J. Rob, but great dude.
Yeah.
Who would you say, like, you know, like and I'm just speaking to this as a whole.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, like, honor is like this big thing in my world. Like, you know, like, for whatever reason, like, America's the city where everything's possible. You know, and you travel a lot, so you begin to pick up on honor in Eastern culture. So we're almost like an honorless culture, where we don't have a habit of really bestowing honor upon people who are paying a part of our process.
The only thing we honor in this country is money.
Boom. It is. It's just the
money and power.
Money. Yeah. So it's sad, but so who were the people that, you know, like, were those pivotal people that shaped you and or really guided your growth and maturity to who you are now?
I think my brother and my father both really played a big role in that. I think my high school football coach, just the way he was in terms of really being able to whittle down to what's important.
This is good.
Like, what's important and what makes him happy, right? Because this guy won hundreds of games in a row, was one of the all-time leading coaches, never even thought about going on to the next level to college. You know why? He didn't want to.
It's fantastic.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't want to. He could have made a whole bunch more money.
Yep.
He could have been a lot more famous. Yep. He could have been the best coach ever. But he was in his own way.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember there was a guy in my school. It was like, everybody wants to be famous. I would want to be known for something. And there was a guy in my school. His name was Kent Heinrich. And he had this thing. He'd get on the morning show. He'd do the Heinrich maneuver, where he'd take a piece of dental floss, snort it through his nose, and then he'd pull it out his nose, and he'd have it in his mouth and in his nose, and he'd do this. And he'd, like, do this with the...
Gross human being, but
and they call that the Heinrich maneuver. But what I got from that is, you could be famous. You could be famous for the Heinrich maneuver, but do you want to be famous for the Heinrich maneuver? like,
is this your goal?
Like you being famous isn't the thing. Being famous for something that you believe in and something that you are proud of,
bro,
that is an entirely different aspect of life.
This is huge, because you got on, start talking about finding your purpose. Yeah. And I think we were at that stage of moving into the NFL where transition started to become a priority. Resources were growing. They were there, but they weren't, you know, in your face in a way where we understood how much we needed to be intentional about that. So what have you learned, whether it's post-career, that, you know, what does meaning look like to Amani Toomer? What is purpose? How has that come to fruition in a way where, you know, this is how I'm identifying my peace, my joy, and fulfillment?
So my goal now is to make as many Black millionaires as I can.
That's dope.
Because my business partner, we bought a company, which we bought it with the $10 million valuation. It's probably going to be, you know, conservatively, could be $100 million company. So I consider that being my first move in making a Black millionaire. Right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's very important for us to do business with each other.
It's huge.
Because, you know, we could give so much opportunity to each other.
Absolutely.
That we don't traditionally. Mm-hmm. And I think that learning about a Rolodex, learning how to call on people.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, oh, I'm calling on you because, I want something from you.
No, you
I'm calling on you to check in. I'm calling on you because I might have something for you. I'm calling on you because there's some opportunities.
Yes.
We need to look out for each other like that because they do.
Oh, absolutely.
They absolutely do.
Absolutely. And like I said, I think this the beauty of where we are today, and let me know your thoughts on this, because I tell the internet obviously has bridged the gap and has become an equalizer because information is more available. And now we're in the content age where you got to give information to get an audience. You got to give information to get a client. Like you can't just say, I got this and this. And
say, prove it.
Prove it, right?
Show me what you got.
So I'm so glad that you shared this because we're better positioned now than we ever were. Yeah. And I think that's the most exciting thing about what that true passion is. And number one, we need to realize it. And I always look at, we're learning from younger people, right? This is a collaboration generation. Like we didn't have access to our heroes growing up. It's like the coolest thing now to actually be able to potentially DM somebody that
text LeBron. He might even answer you.
He might respond.
Yeah.
So has there been any new interactions since you've been in the marketplace and, understanding the power of collaboration? What has been the most exciting new relationship and opportunity that's been created?
Well, I'm in the cannabis industry. And that is one of the things that I really, that I feel could be not only, profitable for everybody, making more, like I said, millionaires, but it's a opportunity for our community who has taken the brunt of, the prohibition of cannabis. Yeah. I mean, they were 4 times more likely to get arrested for it and prison time.
Absolutely.
So it's one of those things where, the criminal justice system has gained a lot from putting us in prison.
Absolutely.
And people say, oh, it's a gateway drug. No, it's not a gateway drug. It's a gateway to the criminal justice system.
Well, yes,
because once you get that felony, you're excommunicated from most things in our society.
Absolutely.
So basically, they've excommunicated a lot of black and brown people because of this drug. It's not even a drug, because of this plant. And now, there's an opportunity to capitalize on it. And who's capitalized on it? Not us.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we know that, and I think it's primarily about access, right? And that's the importance of where we stand today: access to information, access to capital, technology.
Access to capital is a big thing.
We just haven't. We have because of.
But we don't realize when you have access to capital. Like if you talk to people,
there you go.
You can get it. You just got to talk to a lot of people.
There it is.
And you can't be like, I tried to talk to a couple of our teammates, and they were like, no way, whatever. But that's cool. That's cool. But, because you only want people that want to invest. That's cool. But at least I had the conversation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, there's.
No, the world is ripe with opportunity in the marketplace.
You can't be scared to ask. I think that's what I'm currently still trying to get over, right? It's hard for me to go through the Rolodex and ask. But when you do, I went back to the Giants to try and put together a lot of things, not for Canada, for a company that I was putting together, and they were so helpful. Awesome. It was unbelievable how helpful they were.
That's great to hear.
And I was like, yo, I'm glad I had a good relationship with these people because, they have access to everybody in New York City. If you have access to everybody in New York City, you have access to everybody in the world. So, it's one of these things where you don't realize, just how much access you have, and access is money. I mean, access is business.
Yes, it is.
Because I was talking to my business partner the other day. He's a Wharton grad. He went to UPenn, and he's like, all business is trust.
There it is.
He's like, they got to be able to trust that if you give them money, if somebody gives you money, or you give somebody money, that you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
That's it.
You'd be surprised how many people don't.
Well, that's the issue.
And execute at a high level. And there's a lot of dudes that don't execute at a high level, the level that we lived by for years.
Well, I think that's what separates us. And as we're getting the knowledge, information, access, and mobilizing, I'm talking about Hurst. You don't have to be a genius. But the guy who has integrity who has that mindset, we're going to be the leaders and pioneers. All right, bro. So you're a man of 1,000 interests. You have the history of kung fu as an athlete. You're into jiu-jitsu now. Yeah. But I'm learning that heavy right now into cycling.
Yes.
Tell me how you got into it and what, like, you're ingratiated into it. Talk to me about how it's worked.
When I first got done, I got hooked up with Timex, and I ran the New York City Marathon.
Oh.
So I was really excited about that, and I loved it, and I loved running, and it got me back to my game weight.
Nice.
So I was like, yo, I'm just going to be a runner. But 13 years in the NFL told me with my knees and ankles and hamstrings and all, they were like, no, you ain't being a runner. So then I started doing like gym workouts, and like working out just to work out just doesn't do it for me, right?
I totally understand.
I need like something to shoot for. Like we'd always work out in the off season, but there was a season to work out for, right?
Absolutely.
Me working out for vanity just doesn't do it for me, right?
It's pretty difficult for me. I still do it, but it's definitely difficult.
But see, you're working out and you're like, oh, did it work? No, I got to be like, I don't care what it looks like. I got a race coming up, and I'm going to do my best, So that's what gets me going.
That's dope.
So now I do a lot of Grand Fondos races, like these, like they're not races, but they're like you kind of go against yourself and go against some other people, but it's like you try to get the best time you can, right?
Nice.
And they're 100-mile bike races, right? So I did
100 miles, bro.
Yeah, 100 miles. Takes about 6 hours. I was trying to get them under 6 hours, like anywhere under 6 hours. That's what I was trying to do. 17 miles an hour.
Just for the record, Amani Toomer is the antithesis of David Tyree. I don't have a golf game because I have 7 kids. Amani's still finding 6 hours to jump on a bike. This is amazing, bro. Nah, but you, like I said, I always tell people you've earned it, man. Like, when you kind of have these little underdog stories, like we could easily kind of like, oh man, well I wasn't drafted or I got drafted in the 6th round. I tell man, everybody earned it. Like your college career earned you being a 2nd rounder, 1st rounder. Your pro career earned you broadcast opportunities. So I always want to give people their flowers. Like your mentality, your approach is what earned you. I want to ask you this: like you're in the marketplace, you're biking, amazing family. What would you say is your moment? Like like if there was an accomplishment, a moment in your life or an accomplishment that really is like this was probably the most important or treasured experience that I've had.
I would probably be, something surrounded by my family and my kids, even though it's like one of those things where, right now I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, there's so much trouble. These kids aren't listening, blah, blah, blah. But I know like eventually when they grow up and you start seeing what you're talking about, the fruits and how they act and all the time you try to put in to, steering them in the right direction.
Absolutely.
I think my ultimate thing that I'm most proud of, I haven't even accomplished it yet. It's I want to see how my kids are going to interact with the world. Like, I don't care if they're, sports or not sports or whatever. I just want them to be confident.
Yes.
More confident than I was growing up, and more educated than I was, and more interested, because being interested is what gets you to going to the next level.
Who's this guy? That's one of my favorite conversations, and we'll continue that conversation outside. But that's actually the first time somebody's actually answered that question. One of the questions I want to, because you have amazing and iconic accomplishments and experiences. You have the pedigree. You're in the marketplace. You're in the cannabis industry, which is a wealth of opportunity on so many different layers, and you're on the forefront of that. But that's pretty amazing for you to acknowledge that my moment's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, it's coming.
Well, kudos to you in that. So here's like a little bit of a swan song I like to ask everybody. And obviously you were there. And, it's always because...
About when you dropped all those passes?
All right, so we can talk about that. We can talk about that.
I don't know why you hate that story.
No, I actually don't. It actually makes the catch so much better.
It does. It really does. It really does.
No, I don't hate the story. The funny thing about it when people tell it, and because I literally remember like the practice was that bad. And I don't remember much.
You don't remember that? Oh,
No,
you do remember.
I do
Okay,
remember.
Yeah.
Now, I dropped more than enough passes. And I deserve this, right? So when you drop that many passes, it doesn't matter what you caught, right?
Yeah.
And I always remember the one period where, because I blame it all on Plaxico because I was taking all his reps, right?
It was unbelievable.
It's insane. So he doesn't practice. He came back for what, like 2 weeks? Like right toward the end of the season.
Yeah.
And, he doesn't practice all year.
He didn't practice that whole year.
Which is an amazing feat, which I do have to acknage. Yeah. But he doesn't practice the whole year. I
couldn't have done that. I need to practice.
Bro, I needed everything, okay? But I had this one period where I actually caught everything. And the only reason why I remember it is because Tom Coughlin actually says something to me. But when you drop 5, 6, it doesn't matter, right? So in light of that, right? We can have some fun with that. So I don't know. I always like to ask everybody who comes on the pod, what was their vantage point when they saw the catch? I didn't see it, and I really didn't honestly see it until we got back to the hotel.
Really?
So what were your thoughts?
Oh man,
what was going on in your head as a teammate? I never even actually directly asked you this question.
Me and Plex were on the backside running the dig routes.
No doubt.
I'm running at the sticks. He's running it 10 yards past the sticks, right? So I'm figuring I'm going to get the ball because I'm at the sticks. I'm going to get the first down, whatever. So I'm running my route. I'm open, right? And I'm running across. And I'm like, where's Eli? And then I see him come out. He comes out from the tackle. And then I'm like, all right, I'm right here. Then I see him drop his shoulder like this. I'm like, no. And then he throws the ball. And me and Plax thought the same thing. 4th and 10. Damn. Well, excuse me. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
He's like 4th and 10. And then we're looking up in the air. And then I'm like, maybe Dave got it. And then I see
Smitty? Steve Smith?
No, I see
Rodney.
I see Rodney. And I'm like, dang, 4th and 10.
This is great.
And so then
no faith in your boy.
I had no idea.
Well, he's a tight. He's a beast back there.
So I'm like, oh, he ain't gonna catch it. Not because you dropped it or anything, but just because it was a tight coverage.
Yeah.
Right? He was like, your hands were up, his hands were like getting ready to go between them. So I figured, most times that's a PBU. Yeah. So, and then the crowd starts going crazy. And I'm like, what happened? Because I didn't see it either. So then Eli's running up. We're like, FedEx, because we didn't know if you caught it or not.
No doubt.
And so I'm at the line and I'm like, Eli, let's go. Because I'm on the inside. Let's go. Eli goes like this. Hold on, man.
Bro, I'm dead right now.
He's like, hold on.
He gave you the Obi-Wan out there,
He's
bro.
like, we got this. And then your boy, the Belichick called the timeout to challenge it. And then I saw it for the first time and I'm like, holy moly. Because I was like, oh, he got it. Oh, here's where it's going to hit the ground. I was like, here's where it's going to hit the ground. Here's where, it was amazing.
That's crazy.
And then I remember Plex was like, man, we're not going to make that catch irrelevant. We got to score. and so.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Nah, the funniest thing about it is I don't know where I was. I must have been spaced out. I knew I caught the ball. Right. So it wasn't like, but I'm like, I just made the catch. What's
the problem? What the problem is?
I went up, so that's always dope hearing everybody's vantage point. And I know what it means to you. I know what it means. Obviously, we're Super Bowl champions, so I know what it means to us to actually have that. Yeah. But it's really dope hearing different people's stories, what it meant to them, even from a fan perspective. But, bro, we got a lot more to keep talking about. Definitely have you back on, man. Yeah. And like I said, you've always been that leading force as a young player coming in, leading the way. You're still doing so. Your children are going to be dynamic and great, bro. So I can't wait for that moment to come to fruition, man. Thank you for being a guest.
All right, thanks for having me, man. I love being on, and I love what you got going on here, man. This is a podcast where you can talk the truth and just speak your mind and stretch it out a little bit.
That's it, bro. We're
stretch it out a little bit.
We're going to keep the platform buzzing, man. Well, listen, I want to thank everybody for tuning in with this podcast. Make sure you subscribe, YouTube, whatever. Man, we everywhere, bro. YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Get it where you can get it. Holla at your boy, David Tyree. Catch the moment.